Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Prasanth, and before I get into why all of this is on the screen and what I do and stuff, we're going to try and learn something right now, all of us. So if you can raise your right hand, can all of you raise your right hand into the air? Yeah? Wave to me. Awesome. Okay. Now with your right hand, what I want you to do is I want you to draw a circle. Yeah? Draw a nice circle. Awesome. Now keep your hands down. Now you're sitting, right, with your right leg, yeah? Please try and draw a plus symbol on the floor, wherever you are, yeah? Just a plus symbol, okay? Now while you're drawing this plus, now take your hand and try to draw a circle and see if you can do both. Possible, not possible? What's happening? Awesome, thank you. So that's very much how children learn, right? You try it the first time. Don't quite get it, sit, practice, you try it a little bit, maybe you get a little bit more of it the next time around, and at the risk of making a fool of yourself while moving your hands and legs in the air, you slowly begin to learn and things like that. My name is Prasanth Nori. I am from Bangalore. I'm very passionate about education and about schooling, to be very precise. So what you see on the screen, that's me over there, the fifth from the top right. That was in the year 2000 when I was in around 2000, 2001. I was in third grade with my teacher. All of you have a photo like this, I guarantee it. If you've all been to any school, wherever, you have a photo like this at some point. That's me 15 years later. That's me with my own class of third graders when I was teaching them. I taught in a slum in Hyderabad. So I finished my engineering. I joined the Teach for India Fellowship. And I had an interesting bunch of children that I got to teach, right? And then what happened is when I began to teach, I spent 2 full years in the slum in an affordable private school run by this incredible man called Mr. Mohammad Anwar. And here he was providing education, private school education at 100 rupees per child per month, a throwaway price for great education that he was trying. He had about 5,000 children in that school, I mean in the series of schools that he had. And at each point when I was teaching, there would always be these moments, popularly referred to as teaching moments, where something incredible would happen in the class, which is going to disrupt your classroom, and you have 2 choices. You can either, as a teacher, say, shut up, sit down, or you can say, okay, let me just go on to what this child brings into the class. So that's Sohail, who's standing on the left, looking all decent with glasses and a tucked shirt and a tie. He was never like that. One day, his favorite pastime was to bring insects into class. He put them in a small little matchbox. We've all had those friends. And then come and then go next to somebody, wiggle that insect around till they scream when I'm trying to teach. And so I slowed down the class. I said, okay, same. I had an option. I could either like throw that insect out of the class or sort of ask him, why did you bring that into the class? What's up? My co-fellow Abhishek was teaching them patterns in mathematics in third grade. And he found that he's actually brought a dragonfly over here, and he said the wings of the dragonfly have patterns on them. I said, wow, this kid is looking at things incredibly. He's a little random about it, like was throwing the dragonfly at girls in the class for a good reaction from them. But he was finding that pattern on that dragonfly, and I said, this is incredible. Then he brought a cockroach the other day, and then he showed me that if you look at the feet of a cockroach, they look like roots. And he said, I see a pattern over there. Somewhere in a slum in the middle of nowhere, this child is seeing incredible connections between different things in the world. And I said, okay. And whenever he would bring this, there would be a small group of kids who come around, and they want to see what he's doing. And if I was a normal teacher, I'd say, no, go back, sit on your chair. That's not how kids learn, man. Come on. They learn when they are huddled, and they're looking at what their friend is teaching them, because that's exciting. That's incredible. And they learn through these small activities, through these small games, and I can guarantee you that we have known that children learn through activities and games for at least 100 years now. We've known it. All of you know it, right? If I teach a child through a small activity, through a game, it's incredible fun. Even all of our most memorable lessons when we were in primary school were when you had to maybe go out onto a field and do something, or you went counting cars or something like that. I said, okay, everybody knows this. This is not rocket science. And that was the first sort of thought that came into mind, saying, okay, this is how children should be learning. Fast forward a little bit, and I started doing more of this in the classroom. So I said, can we teach circles through a popular game called Dog in the Bone? So we would draw a circle in the middle, and the kids would stand around the circle and then try to pick up whoever could do it first. They'd get the concept overnight. They'd get it like that. They'd understand it. We said if we could do germination and growth and light and soil and all of science through growing a plant and taking care of it, they learned a lot. It was exciting because we knew children learn through activities, through doing. They learn like that. It's amazing. And then what happened was somewhere in my while I was teaching, there was this kid you see in the middle. Her name is Pallavi. So she came into class. She's an incredibly smart little girl sitting in the middle of nowhere. And she said, I was having a lot of trouble to get the children to sit down and listen to what I was teaching them officially, right? And then she said, one day I ended up 2 hours late to school. My bike broke down. All of that happened. By the time I go to school, she's like, "Bhaiya, हमने एक drama बनाया है, आपको दिखाएं." I said, "Okay, cool, interesting." So they had a small little drama they did on stage. In front of the class, they made all the kids sit down. They sort of tried to block some light out so that it would give like a nice theater feel in the classroom. The class didn't even have complete walls. It was like half walls because it was a very difficult school. And it was a very simple drama. There was a Malkin who's in the first scenario. Malkin is very violent. So 3 girls come begging to the Malkin saying, "Ghar nahi hai, paisa de do," something like that. Malkin orders the security guard to behead all 3 of them. I said, okay, disturbing. But I didn't want to stop them. I said, continue. Then they showed a non-violent thing where everybody is peaceful and happy. They come and they ask the Malkin, "I don't have anything." Malkin calls that same security guard, says, "Inko ghar de do, paisa de do, khana de do." And it was amazing because what was amazing was not their play and what she was doing, but if I looked at the rest of the kids sitting there, rapt attention. They were completely fixed on looking at that story and what their friends had put together. I couldn't do that over that 4-5 months which I was beginning to teach, but she had very confidently caught the attention of the entire classroom. So that's when a friend of mine, Soumya, and I came together. We said, okay, can we make this something bigger that goes into more schools and more classrooms? Can we use theater, storytelling, a lot of expression-based thing to get children to learn how to be confident, how to be communicative? And that's when we started Dramibaz. It's an ongoing thing right now. We work with about 3,000 children in Mumbai, in Pune, in Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai. We work through partner organizations like Teach for India and Cry and stuff. And it's amazing what happened because you can see, that's how much it's growing to. So Dramibaz is growing to so many children, and each time an educator or teacher comes back to us and says, that kid who I was struggling with, so easy when he goes on stage, he does so well. I said, okay, people have known this for 100 years, that children need art, children need other forms of expression. Everyone's known it for the longest time. Not a new insight as such, but it's just people are finding value in it slowly. And then what happened, interestingly, is I work with another organization called Meghshala right now, where we train government school teachers using technology. And so there's a particular teacher that we're working with. Her name is Saubhagya. So it was amazing because we gave her like a simple set of activities and lessons that she could use to teach light. And what she did is she actually got 2 shaving mirrors that she found discarded somewhere, old shaving mirrors, and she got a candle and a matchstick, and she was teaching children reflection and refraction in a government school in the middle of nowhere in Bangalore, in a corner somewhere. And kids were awesome, and they were all like rapt attention, looking at what the teacher's teaching. So if the teacher's given good resources, good motivation, a great classroom can happen. There's a great learning environment that can happen. All this is known. This is not new. This has been there. Research has been there. There's been 100 different things telling us that classrooms need to be like this, teachers need to be like this. And then I came back to this photograph and I said, so that's me in 2000 in school, and there's me when I taught a classroom of children 15 years later. And in this gap, that's 15 long years, I sort of went back and I thought, okay, what all has changed in these 15 years? Which means when I was in 3rd grade, my school should have prepared me for being in the world 15 years from there, not for anything else, but how do I prepare myself for a world 15 years away from where I was? And then I just started looking what are the things that came in, a few examples of what exists today that didn't exist 15 years ago. And it was amazing. YouTube didn't exist 15 years ago, right? Wikipedia was born in 2001. There's Coursera, which was born after the 2000s. There was just so many of these innovations that have come about, which says I can learn sitting anywhere in the world, anything that I want, any information at the tip of my fingertips, and so many of these. I can order food from absolutely anywhere. I can listen to any music anywhere. These things didn't exist before the 2000s, right? So are we, the question that kept coming back to me when I looked at this is, we know all of this. We know that the world is changing. And then I said, has school changed in those 15 years? Has school in fact changed in the last 30, 40 years? And the sad answer is that school has not changed a bit. And when I say school, I don't mean your top of the line, cutting edge schools following IB curriculum. I mean, for example, UP has 1.5 lakh government schools having about 300 to 400 children each. So you can imagine the scale of children in these schools, right? So then what I did is I went and look at that. That's a classroom somewhere across the world in the early 1950s. Look at how the classroom is placed, right? There are benches. There are children sitting in front of said bench. There's a teacher sitting at the back. Okay, if the world has changed, why does the classroom still look like that today? This is a classroom from 2017, by the way. This is still like that. I mean, shouldn't it have changed? If the world is changing, shouldn't I also be changing the way I educate children? Okay, so then I went back and I took a look at textbooks. This is a grade 6 social studies textbook from about 20, 30 years ago. And in fact, in about the same chapter, this textbook shows you a biosphere. The only thing that's changed in this description is that it went from black and white to color. Nothing else has changed in the textbook. 30 years later, the textbook is the goddamn same. And that's my biggest question. I say, why are we educating children in the same way if the world is changing around them, right? And in fact, I had somebody who told me a beautiful explanation the other day. She said, education is like a car, right? Your teaching is like you're sitting in a car. You're not looking ahead and driving. Forget looking ahead and driving. Right now, you're not even teaching while looking inside the car. What you're in fact doing is you're looking at the rear view mirror and you're driving, hoping that, okay, in the past, this is how it was taught, and I don't question curricula. How many of us question the Central Board of Secondary Education in how a textbook is, right? So there's so many issues with the way that we learn. It has to change, and that change does not happen away. It's not an external change that's going to happen. It's going to happen when your siblings, when your nieces, when your nephews, when your children 10 years from now go into school. Are you demanding that education changes? Are you demanding that my child has to be taught differently than what is being taught right now inside of a school? So while supply is one end of the issue, the larger issue happens is, as parents, as educators, are we demanding from the system that there needs to be a change in the way that my child is being taught? And that is the largest problem, I feel. Like, we're not asking for it, and hence we're never going to get it, right? And the thought that I really want to leave all of you with is there was a philosopher and an education researcher 100 years ago, okay, in the early 1900s, said that education is not serving the right purposes. 100 years ago. And he left us with a really nice, interesting quote. And the quote says, if we teach today as we taught yesterday, then we are robbing our children of their tomorrow. And we are robbing them of that tomorrow, right? So I mean, how many of you have been forced to write with good handwriting in school? Did you enjoy it? I can't hear you. Did you enjoy it? No, right? I'd get a whack on the knuckle, cursive writing, all of that to write. Do you know why we use cursive, why we have to write excellently in handwriting in our books? Do you know the origin of good handwriting in curriculum? It's because when you served the East India Company, then you had to be an outstanding clerk You had to be writing in outstanding handwriting, so that 30 years hence, when there was a dispute in a British court, they could refer to your register and look at why and what had happened on that particular day. Not because handwriting is important, but because you had to be a good subservient to the East India Company. Do you know why how many of you marched for March Past in school? Morning parade, why did you march? One end is discipline to get into the school. The origins of it is scary. If you actually go back and read the origin of it, it was so that when a Britisher yelled a command at you as a subservient Indian, you had to fall in line and do whatever it takes. And until that narrative changes, our education is going to be the way it is. And when I mean education, I mean you wouldn't believe in the developing world. Today there are 1.9 billion children. Can you even imagine the number of zeros in that number? It's scary. Right? So I want to leave you with that thought, saying, are you demanding good education from the schools that your friend circles or you or your children are going to? Are you demanding that? Because all of you are going to be parents 10, 15 years from now. And unless you begin to demand, and unless you begin to question and ask, nothing's going to change. Thank you so much.